Welcome back to Billionaire Success Lessons. Today, I want to tell you the story of Jeff Bezos. Not just as one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the world, but as a man who made one of the most uncomfortable decisions a person can make. He walked away from a secure, high-status life to chase a future that barely existed yet. Today, Jeff Bezos is known around the world as the founder of Amazon and the founder of Blue Origin, and he currently serves as Amazon's executive chair. But the polished version of Jeff Bezos that people see now was built through uncertainty, long stretches of doubt, painful sacrifice, and years of being misunderstood. His story is not really about getting rich. It is about seeing the future early, enduring the cost of believing in it, and building patiently while the rest of the world is still unsure whether an idea is brilliance or madness. Jeff Bezos was born on January 12, 1964, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. From an early age, he was known for being highly curious, drawn to science, and deeply interested in how systems worked. He later graduated from Princeton University in 1986, summa cum laude, with degrees in electrical engineering and computer science. That matters because it tells us something important about the foundation of his success. Bezos was not simply chasing wealth from the beginning. He was developing a mind that loved structure, logic, and possibility. He was learning how to think in systems, how to understand complexity, and how to imagine what technology could become before it was obvious to other people. Long before he built Amazon, he was becoming the kind of person who could look at a new frontier and see not just what it was, but what it might become if someone had the courage to build for it early enough. After Princeton, Bezos built a strong career in finance and technology. He worked at several firms and then joined D.E. Shaw in New York in 1990, eventually becoming a senior vice president there. By almost any normal standard, he had already won. He had a prestigious job, strong income, and a future that looked safe, respected, and promising. But sometimes the biggest turning points in life are not choices between something bad and something good. Sometimes they are choices between something good and something greater. While working at D. Shaw, Bezos studied the rise of the internet, and web usage was growing by more than 0% a year. That number hit him like a signal. He could feel that this was not a passing trend. It was the opening of an entirely new landscape. And once he saw that clearly, he could no longer be content simply managing opportunity for someone else. He wanted to build inside that future himself. So in 1994, Jeff Bezos made the decision that changed everything. He and Mackenzie left D.E. Shaw, moved to Seattle, and started working on an online bookstore. On the surface, that might sound modest now, but at the time it was a radical leap. The internet was still young. E-commerce had not yet become a normal part of life. Most people were not comfortable buying anything online, let alone books. Yet Bezos believed books were the perfect place to start because there were so many titles that No physical bookstore could stock them all efficiently. That is one of the deepest insights in his journey. Great founders do not always begin with the loudest idea. Often they begin with the clearest wedge into a much bigger future. Bezos was not just trying to sell books. He was testing whether the internet could become a new model for convenience, trust, and discovery. Amazon opened its virtual doors in July 1995, and it began in the kind of place that has now become part of business legend. A garage in Bellevue, Washington, with a small team and limited resources. But what makes that image powerful is not nostalgia. It is the reminder that world-changing companies rarely look world-changing at the beginning. They begin as fragile experiments. They begin in rooms that feel too small for the vision inside them. They begin with uncertainty, awkward systems, and more questions than answers. Bezos did not start with a global empire. He started with software, a handful of people, and a conviction that customers would respond if the experience was better than what the old world could offer. And that is the part so many people miss. Big success rarely begins with big power. It begins with a small but sharp understanding of what people actually want. What made Bezos different was not simply that he launched early. It was that he thought long. In Amazon's original 1997 shareholder letter, he wrote that it was still day one. And that phrase became one of the most important ideas in his leadership philosophy. That same letter reported that by the end of 1997, Amazon had served more than 1.5 million customers and reached 838% revenue growth to $147.8 million. Those numbers were impressive, but the deeper meaning mattered even more. Bezos was telling the world that Amazon would not be built around short-term applause. It would be built around long-term value, bold bets, and relentless focus on customers. Even today, Amazon's own materials describe day one as the energy and entrepreneurial spirit of a company still acting like it is at the beginning. With customer trust as the central driver. In other words, Bezos understood something many companies learn too late. If you want to stay inventive, you must resist the comfort that success tries to sell you. But vision does not protect a founder from pain. Amazon's early years were marked by losses, skepticism, and the heavy burden of reinvestment. The company was growing, but growth is not the same thing as peace. As Amazon expanded, it needed more infrastructure, more hiring, more software, more logistics, and more capital. Then came the dot-com crash, when countless internet companies collapsed and investor confidence dried up. Amazon survived, but survival did not feel glamorous. It meant being doubted in public. It meant hearing people question whether the business model made any sense. It meant continuing to build while critics treated the company as a symbol of internet excess. Amazon did not record its first profit until 2003. That single fact says a great deal. Bezos was willing to endure nearly a decade of discomfort in order to build something durable. He accepted the emotional price of long-term thinking. And this is where the Jeff Bezos story becomes deeply human. Many people are brave at the beginning. when the dream is fresh and exciting. Far fewer stay brave in the middle. When the dream becomes expensive, exhausting, and publicly doubted, Bezos kept expanding while many people called him reckless. He kept investing when safer leaders might have pulled back. He kept building when there was no guarantee that patience would be rewarded. Over time, Amazon's day one culture was shaped around exactly that mindset. Customer obsession, long-term value, and the willingness to make bold decisions before the result is obvious. Bezos was willing to look wrong for a while, in order to be right later. That is one of the rarest strengths in business, and one of the hardest to imitate. As Amazon grew, it moved far beyond books. It expanded into music, video, electronics, home goods, tools, and eventually into countless categories that reshaped how people thought about shopping itself. But growth at that level creates a different kind of pressure. Every new category brings more complexity. Every new warehouse, supplier relationship, and customer promise creates more room for mistakes. The outside world often looks at a giant company and assumes its rise was inevitable. It was not. While Amazon was being built, nothing about it felt inevitable. It was a chain of difficult decisions, made under pressure, one after another. Bezos was not simply building a store. He was building a new standard for convenience and customer expectation. He wanted people to feel that buying online could be easier, faster, broader, and more intelligent than buying in the old world. Once customers feel that kind of convenience, they rarely want to go backward. One of the clearest examples of Bezos' long-term thinking came from a pain Amazon felt inside its own walls. In the early days of operating Amazon.com, the company experienced how hard and expensive it was to provision and manage technology infrastructure. Most leaders would have treated that as an internal headache. Bezos and Amazon treated it as the seed of a new platform. Amazon says that this experience led directly to the launch of Amazon Web Services in the spring of 2006, with the goal of rethinking IT infrastructure so that even small teams could access the same kind of computing power as the largest companies in the world. That decision reveals how Bezos thought. He did not just solve problems for the business he already had. He asked whether those problems themselves could become new businesses that served millions of others. AWS would eventually become one of the most important and influential parts of Amazon, but at the beginning it was just another bold step into a future that was not obvious yet. Another turning point came in 2007 with the launch of the Kindle. Amazon's own history says the device had been in development for more than 3 years, and when it launched on November 19, 2007, it sold out within 5.5 hours. That moment mattered because Bezos was not content simply to sell books in a new way. He wanted to reshape the experience of reading itself. He saw that digital reading did not have to feel cold or inconvenient if the device were designed well enough. Again, this was the same pattern. Find the customer pain point, remove friction, and be willing to bet before everyone else is convinced. The Kindle was not just another product. It was proof that Bezos wanted to build ecosystems, not just transactions. He wanted Amazon to sit closer to the center of people's habits. The more naturally Amazon fit into daily life, the stronger the company became. That kind of power is not built by accident. It is built by repeatedly understanding what customers will want next, sometimes before they can clearly articulate it themselves. What makes Jeff Bezos' journey even more remarkable is that his ambition was never confined to Amazon alone. In 2000, he founded Blue Origin, and the company says its vision is a future where millions of people are living and working in space for the benefit of Earth. That is such a large idea that it can sound almost unreal when spoken casually. But that is exactly why it matters. Bezos has always been drawn to long arcs of possibility. He was not only interested in the next quarter or the next product cycle, he was willing to remain loyal to ideas that might take decades to mature. Blue Origin's mission is to build a road to space for the benefit of Earth. And whether one sees that as visionary or wildly ambitious, it reflects the same pattern that shaped Amazon. Think farther, start earlier, and accept that the people around you may not immediately understand what you are trying to build. Some of the most meaningful goals in life take so long to unfold that patience itself becomes part of the achievement. Of course, the Jeff Bezos story is not free from criticism, scrutiny, or pressure. The larger Amazon became, the larger the expectations became. A founder can dream in private at the beginning, but once the company becomes global, every decision is measured, interpreted, and criticized. That is another lesson people often miss about success. The goal is not only to reach the top, it is also to carry the weight that comes after the climb. Bezos had to lead while managing scale, complexity, and public attention all at once. In 2021, he announced that he would transition from CEO to executive chair, with Andy Jassy becoming CEO. In that message to employees, Bezos said that in the executive chair role, he intended to focus his energy and attention on new products and early initiatives. That line reveals something very important about him. Even after building one of the most successful companies in the world, he still wanted to stay close to beginnings. He still wanted invention, more than comfort. Some people fall in love with status. Bezos seems more deeply attached to the act of building. And maybe that is the deepest reason his story resonates so strongly. Jeff Bezos did not become successful because he always had certainty. He became successful because he was willing to move before certainty arrived. He left a respected career before the outcome was visible. He started in a garage when he could have stayed inside a prestigious office. He kept building through losses, through skepticism, through the dot-com collapse, and through years when patience cost him comfort. He kept choosing the future over the safety of the present. That kind of decision is never easy. The world often praises courage after it has already paid off. But living courage feels much more uncomfortable than it looks in hindsight. It feels like risk. It feels like loneliness. It feels like doubt. It feels like waking up and continuing even when the reward still feels far away. Bezos did that for years. And that is why his story is not just a business story. It is a story about endurance. There is also something profoundly practical in the lessons he leaves behind. First, start with a real need. Amazon worked because it solved genuine customer frustrations. Second, think long enough to survive being misunderstood. Day one was powerful precisely because it resisted short-term thinking. Third, use each problem as a clue to the next opportunity. AWS came from Amazon's own infrastructure pain. Fourth, stay inventive, even after success. The Kindle happened after Amazon had already become large. Blue Origin happened even while Amazon was growing. Bezos did not treat success as a finish line. He treated it as fuel for the next difficult idea. That mindset is rare, because most people, once they finally achieve comfort, want to protect it. Bezos kept disturbing his own comfort in order to keep building. Whether one loves every decision he has made or not. That pattern is unmistakable, and it is one of the most important reasons his story still matters. Today, people know Jeff Bezos as the founder of Amazon, the founder of Blue Origin, and Amazon's executive chair. But if you only look at the result, you miss the meaning. The meaning is in the years before the result felt obvious. It is in the moment he studied the internet and realized the world was changing faster than most people understood. It is in the cross-country move to Seattle. It is in the garage. It is in the long losses before the first profit. It is in the decision to keep investing while critics were still laughing. It is in the refusal to let early difficulty define the future. Those were not side notes in his story. They were the story. Because the truth is, Jeff Bezos did not build Amazon only with intelligence. He built it with conviction. He built it with patience. And above all, he built it with the willingness to keep going. Long enough for the future to catch up to what he already believed. So if there is one final lesson to take from Jeff Bezos' journey, it is this: extraordinary success is rarely built by people who need immediate proof. It is usually built by people who can stay faithful to a meaningful idea long enough to endure doubt, discomfort, and delay. Bezos did not become Jeff Bezos because the path was easy. He became Jeff Bezos because he kept choosing the harder road when that road led toward a bigger future. He chose possibility over security. He chose long-term value over short-term applause. He chose invention over comfort. And that is why his story continues to move so many people. Because beneath the pillions and the headlines, it is really a story about courage, the courage to begin small. Think far, stay patient, and keep building while the world is still deciding whether to believe in you. This is Billionaire Success Lessons. And Jeff Bezos' journey reminds us that sometimes the people who change the world are simply the ones who refuse to quit before the world catches up to their vision.